Hello, this is Karen Dianson calling from North Canton, Ohio, and you are listening to Two Broads Talking Politics.
Are you listening?
Hi everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics. I'm on in this segment with Theresa Gasper, who is running for U.S. House in the Ohio 10th District. Hi Theresa.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. Can we start with just a little bit of background about you've done up until now, and why you're running for Congress now?
I'm born and raised in Dayton, Ohio, actually the fourth of 5 generations on both sides of the family to call Dayton home. I'm a small business owner / entrepreneur. I originally bought a secretarial and telephone answering service in the mid-'90s when I was 5 months pregnant with my second child because, that's what you do when you have a toddler and another one on the way. And my mom always told me I do everything the hard way. But at any rate, I bought that in 86 and 90. We expanded it and became Dayton's largest executive suite or business center, which I think most people today are more familiar with the co-working concept of someplace like Regis or WeWork, and we're kind of the precursor to that. I sold it in 2000 to a client, and 99, my husband sold his company to NCR, National Cash Register, and after taking a few years off, I decided to go back to the neighborhood where I grew up, which is called South Park, and 5 generations on my dad's side of the family have called it home at some point or another, and it's a historic district that was on the slippery side of the slope. It had been hard hit from the foreclosure crisis of the late 90s and early 2000s. I went in and bought the vacant, boarded up, abandoned houses that were pulling down the property values of everything around them and completely renovated them. And for a while we rented them and then ultimately sold them to really cool people. So I did 16 houses, including the house that I grew up in and the last house that my grandmother lived in. And I just sold my last one last Thursday.
Wow.
So kind of closing that chapter of my life. Yeah. And then I'll be honest, I never in my life thought I would run for office. My mom actually ran this congressional office in the late 60s and early 70s for 12 years. And so I guess I was steeped in it a little bit more than I realized. But quite honestly, we had this election in 16 and I just decided I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. So it took me a good year of soul searching to decide if I really wanted to do it. Our incumbent tends to be a little prickly sometimes. And, politics can just be so toxic and negative. But Marianne Williamson, who I really respect, she's a spiritual author, makes the comment that maybe it's toxic and negative because we're not bringing our love and light to the party. So I just decided if the good people keep staying out of it, we're just going to keep surrendering it to the dark forces. It's time to overcome them with a little light. So here we are. So
I have been reading up a little on this district, and I'm kind of surprised that this race isn't getting more attention. When I sort of look at the fundamentals of, it's an R+4 district, which is not terribly Republican, especially in a year like we're seeing right now.
Right.
It's a fairly diverse district. And you've raised a lot of money. That, like all Republican incumbents, your opponent has a lot of money, but you've also raised a great deal of money yourself. So I'm wondering what you're seeing in this district, what the energy looks like there, and, what you see as your path to victory.
Well, I'm surprised for the same reasons. It seems like, quite honestly, all the men that are running are getting the attention right now. We had Danny O'Connor in the 12th in the special election, which he gives us a lot of encouragement because, his is an R+4 district and he came within 1,600 votes. So that tells us this is easily winnable. I think people just have bought into a rhetoric that if it's a district in Ohio, it must be horribly gerrymandered. And when I tell them, no, we're the least gerrymandered in this state, I just get this look of shock and disbelief. The Democrats have also never really put up the strongest of candidates against Mike Turner, so it's always been kind of easy for him. And he's not had to campaign. By most standards for a Republican incumbent, it's been in office for 16 years, he didn't have much of a war chest build up. And we did outraise him the first 2 cycles, so I'm very proud of that. The number I love to talk about right now is the most recent reporting cycle. he had around 160 some individual contributions, which is transactions, not donors. And we had nearly 32,000. So clearly we've got grassroots enthusiasm and momentum on our side, but I just think there's weird dynamics. In some cases, there are Democrats that are afraid to come out and support me for fear of retaliation by the incumbent. There are some Republicans that feel the same way. But where I think our path to victory is because I used to be a Republican, and because I'm a small business owner, I still speak the language. And so when I talk to people on a local level, I said, look, everybody wants a decent job with living wages, they want affordable health care, and they want opportunities for themselves, their kids, and their grandkids. And everybody can relate to that. I mean, it's really hard to argue basic fundamental human rights there. And so people realize, especially when I'm talking to a Republican, that if I can build a bridge with them, that I'll be able to do that when I go to D.C. and work across the aisle. And so what I'm most excited about is we're getting a lot of support from Republicans and independents. And part of it is the incumbent has burned a lot of bridges. Part of it is they just feel like after 16 years, there's this anti-incumbent, energy surrounding, I think, most of the country. A lot of people are looking at it as, okay, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base has done very well, but what about the rest of the district? We're still struggling. So it's a lot of different things, but I think ultimately, I mean, part of me wants to just stand up and down and scream and yell and shoot flares up in the air and say, guys, look at us down here. We can do this. And then I realized, oh, God, if you do that, the dark money comes in.
It might be better to fly under the radar.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really honestly believe we're going to do this just from the excitement that I'm hearing from people. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
So your first ad is out, and you're talking about getting dark money out of politics. Can you speak to that a little bit, why that is so important to you, and how you're running your campaign in a way where, dark money isn't a problem?
I mean, the book Dark Money by Jane Mayer was one of the most influential books I've read. I can't say it's my favorite because it's such a frustrating and infuriating book to read. But I truly believe if we don't get money out of politics, nothing else changes. There's so many, between the lobbyists and the special interest. And, I feel like we've got too many politicians that are more interested in catering to their donors' desires than they are to their constituents' needs. And so, like I say, if we don't do something about that, nothing changes. I personally, one of my first national endorsements came from a group called End Citizens United. I think Citizens United just opened the floodgates. And actually, a friend of mine was telling me the other day that her Republican friends are saying, wow, we thought this would be a good thing, but all that's happened is a bunch of billionaires are now controlling everything. And of course, the Democrats are like, duh, we could have told you that. So, but because I'm an End Citizens United endorsed candidate, I have signed a pledge that I will not accept corporate PAC money. And the incumbent that I'm running against, 97% of his money in the 16 cycle came from large donors and or corporate PACs. Now, I've got large donors, so I can't, I'm not throwing rocks on that one. But there's a difference between an individual that can give you $2,700 and a corporation that can, drop 5 or 6 digits on you if they want. What I get most excited about is with 300 women approximately running for Congress, if we can get half of the seats, and most of us are like myself, we've never run before, we're not beholden to anybody. So if you can change out that many people, you can change the culture. If you change the culture, you can change the system. And it's the system that's broken. And I think everybody realizes that. It's actually become a unifying issue again, that both, it doesn't matter where you're at on the political spectrum, people realize that we don't need a handful of billionaires deciding what's best for the rest of us.
You mentioned that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is there and is doing well. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the Air Force Base to the district?
Oh, boy. It's a huge economic driver for us. If it's not the largest Air Force base, it's one of the top 2, top 3. It's the largest single-site employer in the state of Ohio. And like I say, it's just a huge economic driver for the Dayton area. What concerns me is I feel like we took all of our eggs out of the GM and NCR basket and dropped them in the Wright-Pat basket. But The incumbent wants everybody to believe he's the Lord and Savior and that he and he alone is responsible for Wright-Patterson, and if the little green men that are not stored there ever came and abducted him, I'm pretty sure Wright-Pat would still continue. But to me, it's, when you've got that type of a juggernaut in your district, your job as a representative is to protect it. That's basic 101 job description. So he's doing his job. He's not doing anything over and beyond. Beyond that, he likes to talk a lot about BRAC, Base Realignment and Closure Committees. In 2005 was the last BRAC. Wright-Patterson has grown after every BRAC. It's considered an enduring base. It's not going anywhere. It's very target rich, and people are trying to strip those assets, so you have to protect them. But it's never going to go away. And from what I understand from former base commanders and retired generals, they will tell me that 85 to 90% of the decision to close or realign an installation is based on the quality of the infrastructure and the caliber of the workforce. And so for him to take individual credit, I think is an insult to the men and women that put on the uniform and vow to protect us. So I'd like to see it be less of an either or. He's put all of his focus on Wright-Pat. He ignores just about everything else. To me, it has to be both and. We need a strong Air Force base. We need to protect Wright-Patterson, but we also have to develop the rest of the community. Because if we don't have a thriving, vibrant community, Wright-Pat and our other major employers are not going to be able to attract the talent that they need to fulfill their missions. And I just think most people in this community feel like if they are not part of Wright-Patterson, they don't matter. And it's like the human body. If your heart is weak, it's going to affect your limbs. It's going to affect the rest of your body. So we need a strong, vibrant urban core, which is the city of Dayton, which is the largest city within the district. And we need all the surrounding communities to be strong, and then Wright-Pat will continue to prosper as well.
What are some of the other issues that the people in the 10th District are concerned with right now?
Most of it is economic. We have a lot of people in this town that are used to making $25 or $30 an hour at GM. Those jobs are gone, and they're now maybe making $14 an hour at the Fuyao glass plant, which is a Chinese-owned company. They don't have union protections. They don't have benefits. They don't have decent wages. And, they've lost half their income. And that's not because they became lazy. It's because the world has shifted and changed around them. So between trade agreements like NAFTA or automation, globalization, there's all these outside forces. And I just think that the people of Dayton often, number one, we always feel like we're the redheaded stepchild to the three C's, Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. So we're the fourth largest city, and we're just kind of the afterthought. But also I think like they just feel like they've been ignored and forgotten. And what I find when I'm out talking to people, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, is at a basic human level, they just want to be heard and they just want to be seen. And a lot of times they'll tell me what their issue is. And when I say, how can I help? They're just like, oh, I don't really want you to fix anything for me. I just want you to acknowledge that I've got these issues. And that's where the incumbent is really deficient. He is not talking to the people of his district. In 16 years, he's never held an in-town town hall meeting. And so, we're actually going to hold our first one on September 15th. Plus, I've signed a town hall pledge. So once I'm elected, I promise to hold one town hall a quarter within the district. But people they just want to be heard, and they want to be seen, and they want to be paid attention to. And they want decent jobs with decent wages, and they want to be able to afford their health care, and they want a roof over their head. And it's just the basic fundamentals of life. People want human dignity, and they want decent work, and they want decent pay for it. And right now, they don't see anybody helping them.
Is there anything else that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
I feel like this is an amazing time to be running for office. This, I honestly think, and I'm not prone to being melodramatic or hyperbolic or whatever word I'm looking for, but I really think this is one of the most critical elections of our lifetime. If we don't take back the House, I can't imagine another 2 years with Trump running around basically without adult supervision. And it